Hello, I'm Philip. I live in the Blue Mountains in Australia, and I just thought that I would post this in response to the Exploring Lord of the Rings session 10 about the beginning of the Hobbit's journey. This is something that I've always been fascinated by from the books, and when I got to the game, I wanted to see the journey for myself. So I have thought about this a lot. Anyway, here's my Hobbit Warden, Falco. He is about to show us a little bit more of the environment here. So I'd like to start by actually going back to before the journey began, and that was on the afternoon that they left. Frodo actually went for a walk, so I'm going to take you on his footsteps. It says that he went out and walked down to the gate at the bottom of the path. So here we go. Here we are. Here's the gate at the bottom of the path. It leads up to Bag End. And then on a short way down Hill Road. So this here is Hill Road. It doesn't appear to be a minor laneway. It is Hill Road. It is the main road that goes over the water at Hobbiton, and it's the main road that goes up the hill and beyond it. So it talks about Frodo going on his walk, and he comes down to Bagshot Row. And there down the end we can see where Gaffer Gamgee and Sam live. And this is where he overheard the conversation between Gaffer and another person who we can only assume was a Black Rider. But it was this point, this was as far as he went. And then, of course, he turned around and went back, and amazingly, the Black Rider was not on a horse, because it describes footsteps going back down the hill. So I think that's important to establish that this is Hill Road. It is a very important road going up from Hobbiton, and it even gets itself a bridge. So let's bring Falco back up to Bag End, and I'll just point out some of the other differences in this area just outside Bag End and also the party field. You will see on my left here when we get up that there is a big drop between Bag End and the party field. So there's the party field down there in front of us with the party tree and all pavilions, and we can see that this is quite a big cutting, quite a large cliff down here, and down here we see the ovens that Bilbo had put in for his party. Now the book actually describes the party tree as being, the party field as being just outside their front door. So, excuse me a tick while we go and have a look. Let's go and have a look at the party tree. Let's go and have a look at the portrait, the one that we know of the hill. So here's Bag End up here, and here's the party field below it. So they walked out the front door and almost straight onto the field. The ovens were, I believe, up this end, said the northern end of the field, so up here, and I believe the gate into the field was down here somewhere. But then you can see Hill Road snaking around here to the beginning of Bagshot Row there. So that was where we took Falco down before to establish that this is Hill Road. So let's go back to the game and the text, and let's have a look. So when they finally did leave, came out the front door, and the book says that Frodo shut and locked the front door, the round door, and gave the key to Sam, and then of course Sam went down to give it to the gaffer. Now we're off at last, said Frodo. They shouldered their packs and took up their sticks and walked round the corner to the west side of Bag End. So this is the west side over here. Over here is the window that Gandalf and Frodo were talking about the ring, because it looked out on the western side onto the garden. "Goodbye," said Frodo, looking back at the dark, blank windows. He waved his hand. And then turned and, following Bilbo, if he had known it, jumped over the low place at the hedge at the bottom and took to the fields. Now, also in the movie, in The Fellowship of the Ring, from the first time I saw it, when Bilbo left after the party, I always thought, oh, he's walking the wrong way, because I knew from this that he walked westwards. So here we are, we're facing west. They jumped over the low place in the hedge at the bottom and took to the fields, passing into the darkness like a rustle in the grasses. So they headed westwards. It actually says they went down to the bottom of the hill. Now, I'm going to show you why we can't go right down to the bottom of the hill. And once again, it's one of those things to do with scale. If we go back to the Shire map that we've been looking at before, we can see here is the hill here. But because of the scale in the game, the hill takes up this whole section here. Bag End's probably about here, and comes all the way down to the water as it turns north. So yeah, the hill takes up a much greater space in the game than it does in the book. So as they came down the western side of the hill, they would have come through the fields, and the lanes would have been in this area here. But we don't have that area here. We just have the hill. So we're going to get ourselves down the hill. Okay, so it's at the bottom of the hill on its western side. So we're on the western side of the hill here. They came to the gate opening onto a narrow lane. There they halted and adjusted the straps of their packs. Then Sam appeared, and they have a talk with him. For a short way, they followed the lane westwards. Then, leaving it, they turned left and took quietly to the fields again. So about here, where they turned left and took to the fields. And now they're heading quite definitely south, because they have to get over the other side of the water. They went in single file among the hedgerows and borders of coppices. Night fell dark about them, and in their cloaks they were invisible. They were pretty much invisible, as if they all had magic rings. And an important thing is that they were trying to avoid detection. So they were going through areas that were not heavily peopled and away from main roads. So here we go. They've followed the laneway. They've followed cross-country to the south, and they come to the water. So after some time, they cross the water west of Hobbiton. So it's a bit hard to see here. We might come up here a little bit through these rushes, and I should be able to show you that there's Hobbiton and the water up there. So there's the mill, there's the bridge going over the Beanie Hill Road, and there's Hobbiton. So here we are, west of Hobbiton, as described in the book. Now, there isn't any narrow place to cross here, but I think this is roughly where it would have been. So if we come a little bit further, and I do apologise for the resolution, I understand that it's a bit grainy, but I'm not a professional streamer and gamer, so you'll just have to put up with this. So if we come a little bit further around, and by this time we're heading northwards, this is that big bend in the water that we saw before. Past a tree. I don't think it's an alder tree. I think it looks more like a willow tree. But over here, there's this place here, which is quite narrow and able to be crossed. So the stream was no more than a winding black ribbon bordered with leaning alder trees. So this in the game is a more likely place for crossing the water. So if we go from here, and we'll hug the side here, because there's a wolf den up there we don't want to get entangled with, particularly the Falco is not a particularly high level at the moment, and I don't want to have to go through any battles at this point. So this is, yeah, so they've come around. Of course, they wouldn't have gone through here, but they would have, and from up here we can actually see the water down there leading over the bridge, that section there, and there's the bridge, the stone bridge at Bywater. And as I said, remember that they were trying to avoid detection. So this is where they would have in the book, where they would have crossed the water. And then from here it says a mile or two further south, so they headed south from here. A mile or two further south, they hastily crossed the Great Road from the Brandywine Bridge. So let's head southwards until we come to the Great Road. And of course this area here is away from the main roads. It's away from the farms. It's a peaceful area. The only people who might have been out at this time might have been some farmers. But most people would have been indoors and they were walking quietly. So this is indeed a nice quiet way to go. And up ahead we can see the Great Road from the Brandywine Bridge. Okay, it's a desolate part of the road. We look back that way towards Waymeet and this way towards the Brandywine Bridge. So they crossed the road and headed, they were now in Tookland and bending southeast. So we're going to head a little bit more east than south. They came up this way. Now here's another complicating factor. Here's the main road in the game between Hobbiton down in the valley and Tuckborough up here. Now once again, if we go back to the map, we can see in this area here that there is no road. Here's Hobbiton down here. Here's Tuckborough up here. I always found this strange when I was reading the story, that there's no road in between Hobbiton and Tuckborough. To get to Tuckborough, you have to come in through Stock, right over near the Brandywine, and come all the way along the Green Hills Road to Tuckborough there. So there actually is no road. So they would have gone from the hill, as I said, gone westwards, turned south, crossed the water, west of Hobbiton, crossed the Great East Road, and then headed southeast, coming through this area here, away from all the main traffic areas. This road from Hobbiton to Bywater was a real thoroughfare, and we got that bit about Sam walking home from the Green Dragon at night. So that happened all the time. Let me go back to the game if I remember to do it the correct way. Okay, so this road wouldn't have been here. This would have been just open farmland, getting higher. And so then they've headed off into the hills, heading southeast. And then this is the point where it describes, here we go, I'll come back a little bit here so I can show you this, where it describes, as they began to climb its first slopes, they looked back and saw the lamps in Hobbiton far off twinkling in the gentle valley of the water. So there we go, there's the valley of the water, and there's Hobbiton down here. Hobbiton down there, and the lights, if it was night time, there'd be, well, we'd hope there would be some lights. Soon it disappeared, so it talks about them travelling. Soon it disappeared, and then soon it disappeared in the folds of the darkened land and was followed by Bywater beside its grey pool. So here we go down here. If we come a little bit closer here, we've gone a little bit further south, and unfortunately those stinging gnats are in the way. We get the water coming through the bridge and Bywater pool. So yeah, it was, they couldn't see it both together. They saw the lights of Hobbiton, they travelled further, and then they saw the sights of Bywater. And as we head over this way, past the methyl stage, past all these enemies which are going to kill me if I'm not too careful, we get into the Green Hills country, and there's the road over there that the expedition ended up on, heading up past Odo's leaf farm and into their encounter with the fox. So I just thought that I would show that, and I know there was some consternation on the forums about the interpretation, so I thought it was important to show there is an alternate interpretation, and there is another way that can show the Hobbit's journey out from Bag End. So anyway, this has been fun. Thank you very much. And I bid you all a good day.